Yo everybody, what's going on? Mobile Gamers Unite here. So today I wanted to talk about Olivier, Oliver, whatever you want to call him. This guy is one of the craziest support characters in this game. I'm very happy that they just gave this character away. In my opinion, he might as well be an SSR character. That is how powerful and how useful this character is. He's also like one of these characters that they've given us, like Farik. I would put him in the same category as Farik, personally, because of how useful he is. He just brings something to the game that other characters do not. And especially when you stop to think about who he is bringing this to, and we'll get into that. Pretty much, I've talked about Farik and how she can steal people's buffs, and that can just make her absolutely amazing. She's an SR character, and I would argue she's a little bit stronger than an SR character because of that ability. So this guy's in the same boat, okay? And let's just break him down real quick. Here is what Olivier does that makes him so amazing. First of all, his talent, Amber Love. When units hit points 100%, attack increased by 20%. That's cool. Okay. All right. Because remember, this guy is an archer. Okay. So he's going to be good against flyers, which is important and is very nifty. It's just good to have. Okay. Because you're not really wasting your party slot on an archer. Really, this guy's a supporter. Because on top of giving him 20% more attack when his hit points are at 100%, after taking action, damage taken by 3 allies within 2 blocks is reduced by 10%. And here's the best part. This effect lasts 2 turns. 2 turns, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? You're going to get awesome damage reduction for 2 turns. And that's just the tip of the freaking iceberg. If you really think about how this character works, he has a aim ability. So he can use aim and effectively give everybody around him Amber Love. And then he can move a couple more blocks and do another action, effectively giving more people Amber Love. And it does last for 2 turns. So even when you step away from him, you're going to be, taking 10% less damage, which is pretty impressive all on its own. All right. When I look at this character, I would think like this Amber Love ability, I would think that they would give this to some kind of super squishy mage healer type character that would have a support ability like this. But no, this guy is an archer and his arrows are sharp. Okay. He can do some really, really gnarly damage, especially to flyers. But we're not done talking about his defensive abilities yet and what he brings to the table. Because on top of his talent here, he also starts with Roaring Bomb. This you start with right off rip. Attacks multiple enemies within range, dealing 0.3 times AoE damage, which is standard. Reduce their damage dealt by 20%. Lasts for 2 turns. This thing has a 3-turn cooldown. Really think about that, guys. Let that kick in. Because what this guy is going to do is, alright, all my friends around me are going to take 10% less damage. And oh yeah, those enemies that we're fighting, they're going to do 20% less damage. That's insane. The amount of damage that he is taking away from your party is just insane. And then on top of that, he's throwing attacks and he's doing damage himself. Flyers do not want to see this guy around. And if you thought that was it, no. This guy, he gets this ability, Excitation. Yeah. Active skill. Heals the hit points of multiple units within range by 30%. Now that's important, okay? Because this guy can't heal like a healer. He can't use intelligence to heal. His intelligence is probably a C stat, okay? So what he does instead is he heals you by a percentage of your max health. That's actually pretty gnarly, okay? But on top of that, it increases your mobility by 1, and you get the regeneration buff, and it lasts for 2 turns at a time. That's absolutely insane. If you really think about this, the reason it is so good is because of who you're going to be using this on. We go down his other path. He gets, okay. Deal 0.35 AoE damage to all enemies within 5 blocks and reduce their crit rate by 30%. At the same time, affected enemies, oh, that's right, they cannot use Act again. So this is cool too. This whole take away Act again, this is something that's kind of new to us. We just got this with like this last collab. This is what Lionheart does too. Leonhardt, he takes away your Act Again ability. Well, guess what? This guy can do the same thing. And that's just always nice to have in your back pocket. Now, obviously, I didn't go down this path first. For me, it's more important to get this ability right here. This heal 30%. And the main reason that's so important to me is because if you look at this guy's faction groups, he does belong to Empire. So that is what really impressed me about this character. The fact that he belongs to Empire. Alright, so really look at these characters that he's going to be running around with. You got a strong Empire team. This guy's off the chain. Alright, 30% healing to somebody like Bernard here is insane. Okay, it's just insane because he has such a high hit point pool that when you give him 30% of his health back, and you probably have Hard Rock on him, and, you know, all sorts of things where, you know, Bernie here is actually a pretty self-sufficient unit, okay? And he's kind of good at healing himself up as long as he keeps fighting. He's got the Red Guard with him. They heal every turn, and they do some fixed damage. And Bernie is just self-sufficient, awesome like that. So if you put Olivier next to Bernie, now Bernie's taking 10% less damage, and the enemies that Bernie's fighting are doing 20% less damage. And then when they somehow do manage to get his health down a little bit, here's 30% of your hit points. The other thing too is Olivier can effectively increase Bernie's movement range by 1. That's scary, okay? Bernie with some Apex boots and Olivier next to him can move 5 blocks. That is scary because now your Bernie is very mobile and he can actually, you know, reach out and touch someone if he wants to. And when Bernie does that, it hurts. So he helps the whole team be more mobile and take less damage. And look at this team, okay? Because you got Bernie, you got Leon, you got Altamüller. Look, a lot of these characters, Bernie, Altamüller, I mean, Bernie's a tank. Altamüller's half tank. Okay, you're talking about some of the strongest, toughest characters in the game already with some of the highest hit point pools. And now they're going to be taking 10% less damage. And the enemy is going to be doing 20% less damage to them. And they're going to get +1 movement. For 2 turns at a time each. Oh yeah, and they get to heal 30% of their health every few turns. And then on top of that, whatever damage Olivier throws into the mix with that as well. So overall, this is why I think Olivier is just has to be like one of the best support characters in the game, especially for this faction group right here. I mean, they have Imelda, I'm sorry, they have Imelda as a healer of sorts, but Imelda can kind of be tricky because with Queen's Gauntlet, she can also hurt you. I do believe there's an item that gets rid of that property of Queen's Gauntlet, but if you don't have it, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I would run Olivier over Imelda right now with my Empire team, just because she's not going to give the damage reduction and all that stuff that Olivier is going to do. On top of that, let's just look at his equipment real quick. Because of how Olivier is set up and the way that he's running around spreading that buff of his, I put the King's Crown on him. I just think it's an absolutely amazing idea because now you're running around and you're spamming that, what is it called? Amber Love. You're spamming Amber Love, and while you're doing that, you might as well give the Royal Blessing, which increases one of your friendly units' damage dealt by a certain percent. This one is only level 20, so it's like 12% extra damage. 12% extra damage is a big deal to just be given away to people every turn. And the way Olivier works, I mean, you're going to have him standing next to your tank. You're going to have him standing next to characters. So that is why I personally put Tree of Life on him. The 10% hit points, I mean, yeah, that's nice for him because you do want him to be able to survive something if something comes your way that manages to scrape by your defenses and hits this guy. But his hit points isn't an S stat or anything. But it's not bad. Hit points is never bad to have in this game. But increase the defense and magic defense of all heroes within 2 blocks by 5%. I know 5% doesn't sound that high to you guys, but when you factor in the 10% damage reduction that your characters are going to get and the 20% less damage that enemies are going to do to you, then you also get 5% to your defense and your magic defense. Oh yeah, and he's going to be giving a couple characters this Royal Blessing where they're going to do, 15% more damage. That is just so much support. It's wicked. It's sweet. I absolutely love this character. And I know you can go and put a lot of different rune sets on him. I chose Tree of Life just because this guy's real main purpose is to be a supporter. But I did find use with the Judge Talisman on him because my whole theory is with the Judge's Talisman, Olivier can be used to snipe out a healer. And I like this because he can go from supporting, and then when your unit actually, moves up and engages the enemy, he can kind of sidestep and go after a healer. And, with this, he'll do extra damage to holy units. Olivier does hit hard enough to take mages out and to take holy units out. I wouldn't target a mage with him because they would retaliate back pretty well, but I would go after a healer with him. Either that or I was going to put an accessory that increases my damage to flyers. But I do think that somebody's using that accessory right now. So I just put the Judge's Talisman in. And this is a great gear set for him. If you can put things on him that throw debuffs, anything like that, that works. Or if you can just put something on him that gives your allies more buffs, because he's already going to be playing that role. He's going to be sitting around buffing everybody and taking damage off of them. So that's the way I see it. And I know there's a lot of different ways you can play this character, but personally for me, this is what it comes down to, and this is what this guy is going to be doing. And I think he just fits so perfect into Empire. This is what Empire needed. Healing 30% every few turns, and on top of that getting +1 to your movement is perfect if you're also getting 10% damage reduction and your enemies are doing 20% less damage. To me, this guy is more than enough to keep your team healed, especially if you're talking about an Empire team. They're already running around with Vampire Bats and Dark Guard, troops that regenerate, troops that heal. You got characters like Bernie that heal. They have passives that can heal them. So really, that's why I think Olivier is just awesome for Empire. And it's not just Empire. Everything that I just talked about, he can do for any team. I just think his abilities go that much further when they're applied to characters that are like already tanks. Even Leon over here, he has a pretty high defense. Leon does have a pretty high defense, especially after he moves and does his attacks. And remember, Amber Love stays on you for 2 turns. So you can tag Leon with that, and then Leon can run and use Chivalry and go attack somebody, and he can still have that Amber Love ability on him while he's attacking somebody. He's going to take 10% less damage, and his defense is going to be like 600-700 because Leon's defense goes up as he moves up to assault somebody. So, and then you got Altamuller. I already put Steel on my Altamuller just so he takes less damage. He's a sustained attack god. Anything you can do to increase this character's defense and keep him alive longer, Altamüller heals himself. So giving him damage reduction is awesome, and making his enemies do 20% less damage is even awesomer. Okay, and then we got Leonhardt. Nuff said, man. Nuff said. Leonhardt taking less damage, that's great. I did put a steel rune on Leonhardt on one of my accounts because I want him to be able to teleport in and I want him to be able to survive. Taking 10% less damage is a very helpful tool when it comes to surviving. So these are all tough characters to begin with. They're already going to have a high defensive stat. So 30% healing goes a super long way with these characters because of how self-sufficient they are. That's just my opinion. If you don't agree, yeah, that's fine. But this is just the way that I see it, okay? And like I said, he's not just Empire. He also goes with Strategic Masters. And he is with Heroes of Time, of course, because he kind of came in through that same portal. So really, I mean, like for Heroes of Time, Olivier's abilities are nice. I think they're more effective when they're applied to an Empire's Honor team, just because of the type of character you're giving that damage reduction to. They're gonna go from taking a little bit of damage to just barely getting scratched now. That's the way I see it. That's what I'm gonna use my Olivier for. I've pretty much went through the build. Mine's only at 3308. He's not that powerful. I will be working on this character though. Mark my words. This guy is gonna get worked on. We're going to definitely be using him. He's a very important character. I'm working on getting class materials for him right now. So in a nutshell, I wanted to put this out there real quick because I'm sure some people got Olivier and some people might have just benched him just because, he's just an SR character. Guys, this is not just an SR character. He's not, okay? He's an SSR character. The first S, though, just isn't capitalized. You just don't see it, okay? He might as well be an SSR character as far as I'm concerned. He is that powerful. Take my word for it. Invest into this guy a little bit. He will definitely help you out. So I wanted to throw this out there because I'm sure there's some people that they got this guy and they haven't really even looked at him and he's just kind of sitting there collecting dust. Do something with him. This guy is definitely worth the investment. I will say the same thing about Farik too, because she has a special ability to steal buffs, and I have recently noticed exactly how OP that can be, because this game can throw some enemies at you that just have some unfair buffs that they want you to deal with. Well, Farik can just steal those buffs and then they become hers and then she becomes super OP. So when characters like this come out, I keep an eye out on them. And also, anyone that has this character should thank their lucky stars, because this is a limited character. If you didn't get him by now, I mean, you got like a week to get him till the event goes down. After that, you're not going to get him. So this is just awesome. I love that Langrisser does this. I love that they give us characters that are this strong that you don't even have to pull for. It's like, hey, here you go. Here's, characters that are more than powerful enough to clear all the content in the game. You don't have to pull any SSR characters. Just in case you have just the worst, most terrible luck, here you go. Here's some SR characters that are just as powerful as SSR characters. Have fun, guys. Here, we're going to give them to you just for playing. That's what I love about this game. Okay, they also, they let us get Basel for free. I don't know if everybody remembers that or not. The point is I don't really see other gacha games doing anything like that. If this was Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, this guy would come with a $120 price tag on him. Real talk, okay? So, Mobile Gamers Unite, this is what I think of Olivier, whatever Olive you want to call him. Haha. Okay, so he's awesome. He's platinum. Definitely work on this guy. Even if you don't use him now, you will probably use him in the future for something. And his abilities, they're useful for just about any party. And I think they're super useful for Empire. So, anyway, Mobile Gamers Unite. Y'all have a good night. I'm one click away, everyone. Peace.